Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We're standing anywhere on this bridge, we can see all of those areas that are meaningful to our history.
Metro Vancouver's newest bridge now has a name and a date to open after years of delays. Plus,
I remember as a kid playing on these fields. And if anyone had said at that time it would be the host site, the training site for a World Cup, I would have laughed.
as the FIFA Men's World Cup inches closer, Vancouver is busy upgrading fields for training. And
the impact emotionally, physically, spiritually when these things happen is very devastating.
a BC town built on lumber wonders what's next as the last of its many sawmills prepares to shut down.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. We now have a name and a date for Metro Vancouver's newest bridge to open. The replacement for the old Pattullo is set to flow with traffic by the end of this month. As Shivani Joshi shows us, the project has faced years of delays.
We're standing anywhere on this bridge, we can see all of those areas that are meaningful to our history and our peoples.
The new bridge replacing the Pattullo now has its official name, Stallo Awesome Bridge, which means a place to view the river. The province says the English name will be Riverview. Musqueam elder Larry Grant named the bridge to recognize the deep historical and ongoing ties to the area.
This is to honor our people using our language.
The province says construction is in its final stretch,
4 much wider lanes and better connections into Surrey and New Westminster,
with the first northbound lane linking to Columbia Street scheduled to open December 24th. The rest of the lanes will be phased in over time. There is also an anticipated closure of both bridges for a week, slated for either the 3rd or 4th weeks of January. By mid-February, the province expects the bridge to be in full use.
the new bridge will get people where they need to go more quickly, reliably, and safely. It will also be a more efficient connection for goods movement.
And a dismantling of the old bridge is expected to take 2 years. Shivani Joshi, CBC News, Surrey.
The BC Conservatives, meanwhile, are criticizing the lengthy construction delays and what they call a failure to keep pace with growth. In a statement, MLA Misty Van Popta says the region is getting a 4-lane bridge to replace a 4-lane bridge in the fastest growing area of the province. Commuters and businesses need capacity, reliability, and a plan that actually reduces congestion, not years of delays, cost overruns, and the same bottleneck at the end. For decades, the small BC town of 100 Mile House was energized by hundreds of jobs in local sawmills. But next month, that power is going completely out. The last of its many lumber mills is shutting down, putting about 10% of that town's population out of work. Lindsay Duncombe went to the small lumber town to meet people struggling to figure out what's next.
There is shock and sadness in 100 Mile House.
The impact emotionally, physically, spiritually when these things happen is very devastating.
The town's lumber mill is closing for good. Families leaving.
I've lived in this area my whole life, so that would be a big change for me.
As the economy changes, worry grows that parts of rural Canada are in crisis.
You think things are just perfectly fine, and then a major industry just stops.
100 Mile House is a lumber town. There used to be 3 mills here. In November, West Fraser gave notice. The last mill left is closing. 165 people out of work.
Hi, Sven.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you doing?
I'm good. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Laborer Sven Berkner isn't sure how many shifts he has left.
So how are you feeling?
Feeling pretty sad. Pretty sad about stuff.
The last log was processed weeks ago. It's all cleanup now. None of this is easy.
You know, we are mill workers, so we have a little tough time sometimes expressing our emotion. I get the sense that it's very tough for quite a lot of people.
About 2,000 people live in 100 Mile House, in the heart of BC's interior.
Once the big machines finish, technology takes over.
The mill opened 40 years ago. Even then, tariffs were a problem. Now, it's so much worse.
Well, the tariffs don't help.
Rob Barron is West Fraser's regional manager. He says forest fires hit the area hard. Mountain pine beetle, too. The mill has salvaged what it can, but it's just too expensive to get to the trees that are left.
We worked hard to have the best operation we could here, and our employees worked very hard. In spite of everybody doing the best they can, the economics of the fiber supply just don't work for us.
So I kind of foresaw a little bit months in advance.
Berkner had a sense layoffs were coming when the Christmas party was canceled.
And I made a comment to my coworkers, and I said, you know, if they can't afford a Christmas party, they may as well close the doors. And it was kind of a half joke that I was making, and unfortunately, you know, it did come to that.
He's been here before. He was laid off when the last mill closed. Now he's helping his girlfriend raise 3 young children. He's eligible to apply for other jobs at West Fraser Mills in other towns, but he's not going to. He plans to work as a server in a local restaurant instead.
From having 2 mills closed in one town, I fear that if I do relocate and get another job in the mill industry, even the mining industry, I fear that it will not be a secure job for me in the future.
You worry it could happen again?
Or it could happen again, absolutely.
He blames politicians.
I do believe that our BC government, as well as our Liberal government, has really let us down.
Maureen Pinckney is the mayor of 100 Mile House.
50-50.
She also volunteers at junior hockey games.
I was born and raised here. Thank you. 100 Mile has had its ups and downs.
Wranglers games are a big deal. Hundreds turn out. With the mill closing, there's anger and anxiety in the stands.
We're trying to keep it really positive because we have so much to offer here, but it's devastating.
She says those 165 job cuts could actually mean 500 people out of work when you factor in cuts to industries that support the mill.
Everyone's affected, and not just workers that are with the mill. They have spouses, and you know, we may end up losing some nurses because if they have to transfer to work somewhere else.
The emergency room here has already had closures because there isn't enough staff. Losing nurses would make it worse. And then there's taxes. The entire budget for 100 Mile House is $3.5 million a year. $460,000 of that came from the mill. Not anymore.
So that's a big hit. That's a really big hit. So we still have to provide water, sewer, roads, sidewalks, and we don't have a way.
Pinckney is lobbying federal and provincial governments for cash and trying to attract new business. She knows other communities are doing the same.
You think things are just perfectly fine, and then a major industry just stops. But it's happened to a lot of towns literally across Canada.
Rural Canada is, kind of going the way of the dodo, I guess. I don't know.
Mark Bassat worked at the mill for 27 years. He's interviewed for positions at West Fraser's other mills.
When you haven't done an interview in a long, long time, you feel very vulnerable.
Whatever happens, he's pretty sure he, his wife, and his 3 kids will have to move.
The uncertainty of having to sell a home and see what you get for it, and then having to buy another home somewhere else, uprooting the family and changing their normal life.
He hopes he can get a job in a town not too far away, in a community not too different from this.
You have to be positive, and things will work out. I believe that.
Shortly after our interview, West Fraser announced the indefinite closure of its strand board plant in High Level, Alberta. Another 190 jobs gone in another small town.
There's no community that is immune to this happening. There really isn't. I mean, it's one thing when we see the forestry industry starting to go down, but then we start to see also the steel industry starting to go down.
But he just got some good news.
I was told last night that, that the community is going to be paying for a Christmas party. So thank you to the community, right? So that's a big thing, right? And that hits heavy, right? So thank goodness for that.
Plants may close, industries may come and go, but some things about small town Canada stay the same.
BC Conservatives are calling on the Premier to repeal the province's Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, also known as DRIPA.
And that is what we are asking the Premier to do. Reconvene this House immediately. Let's repeal this. He has indicated that he is looking at options, whether it's repealing or different legislative amendments regarding DRIPA. What I'm saying is, let's show that leadership now. Let's get in this House, let's get this done, and let's get this work done this week.
This comes after the BC Court of Appeal found it is incompatible with the province's current system used to grant mineral rights. That's in response to a legal challenge from the Gitgathla and Hatasat First Nations. They claim mineral rights approvals violate the duty to consult First Nations on projects. David Eby has expressed reservations about giving the courts more power. He says the government needs time to review past judgments and come up with amendments to DRIPA. Vancouver police are trying to piece together a deadly pedestrian crash on the downtown east side late Sunday. Police say a 62-year-old man was crossing mid-block near East Hastings and Jackson Avenue just after 7 p.m. when a red Kia SUV hit him. He died at the scene. The Kia driver is cooperating with officers. Police are asking anyone who witnessed the crash or has dash cam video to contact their collision investigation unit. A coroner's inquest looking into the death of 3 people killed in a head-on crash in Chilliwack has now begun. It happened back in December 2020. Police said a vehicle was traveling the wrong way on Highway 1 near Laidlaw. That vehicle apparently avoided a spike belt deployed by police before it collided head-on with another car. 35-year-old Gabriel Choi, 29-year-old Hassan Ayed, and 43-year-old Allison Gilchrist were killed. The coroner's inquest aims to figure out what caused the circumstances leading up to their deaths. A coroner's jury can make recommendations to prevent similar deaths. Police in Surrey say a 21-year-old man has now been charged for his alleged involvement in an extortion-related shooting last month. The RCMP says prosecutors have charged Avtar Singh with unlawfully firing a gun. It happened on November 12th at a home on 32nd Avenue near 170th Street. Police said their investigation involved several incidents with one primary victim. Singh was arrested on December 5th and remains in jail. He's slated to appear in court on Wednesday. Might be snowing elsewhere, but here on the South Coast, things are looking pretty darn soggy as Environment Canada issues a rainfall warning for northern parts of Metro Vancouver. There's a look at Grouse Mountain's chalet cam earlier in the day, where you can see 2 lone skaters on a very wet ice pond. And looking at the snow cam, things don't look much better for skiers and boarders hoping to hit the slopes. Temperatures are expected to hover above freezing with rain for much of the week. And here's the scientist, Darius Badavi, here for a first look at the weather. And yeah, not looking great up on the mountains.
No, freezing levels will fluctuate a bit, but for the local mountains, it's not looking great. Maybe some light snow through the middle of the week. We've seen a lot of moisture streaming into BC, which we can take a look at here. A lot of that coming into the coast because we have an atmospheric river event that is moving into the province. This is a moderate event for us here in the South Coast, but more intense down south of us. With that being said, we still have many warnings issued across BC. These are all yellow warnings, so the lowest classification under Environment Canada's new system, but still expect disruptions, plan around them. Rainfall warning up for Metro Vancouver, northern sections, up through Howe Sound and the Sea to Sky. Wind warning on some of the mountain passes, as well as snowfall warnings and winter storm warnings. So a lot to be on the lookout for. If we move to the north of the province, similar situation. Wind warning for Haida Gwaii, rainfall warning on the coast, snowfall warnings blanketing much of the north. Widespread disruptions expected, Dan, and 1 orange warning for Pine Pass. That should drop overnight into tomorrow morning as well. High winds, snowfall expected there. High stream flow advisories have been issued, but so far, no flood watches.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
A northern BC community is sounding the alarm about a stretch of highway they say is a safety hazard. We're going to share that story with you after the break. Stick around. The wound is still fresh, but the head coach of the Vancouver Whitecaps and their CEO say they're already looking to next season after losing the MLS Cup on Saturday.
We reached out for the stars, and let's see next year if we catch them.
We have competed in every game, including the game on Saturday, and it was an inch that has made the decision on the one side to the other side. A double post.
Inter Miami, led by Argentina legend Lionel Messi, took the title with a 3-1 win at home, despite the Caps possessing the ball for much of the game. Vancouver's storybook run was anchored by German star Thomas Müller. They'll return to the pitch in January for the 2026 preseason. But the future of the Caps has questions, with the team for sale and looking for a new home stadium or a better deal at BC Place.
We expect that we get a fair solution here. And our basis is fairness and what we see in other markets and what is actually an average deal in other similar setups.
Schuster says the team is optimizing their situation at BC Place. We now know which teams will be playing at BC Place as part of next summer's FIFA Men's World Cup. Vancouver will host 7 matches next summer, and as Michelle Gomez reports, infrastructure upgrades outside the stadium are underway.
In 6 months, world-famous soccer players will use this field in Vancouver's Killarney neighborhood to train for their World Cup matches. The field's $24 million upgrade is almost complete, with new lighting, locker rooms, and, of course, state-of-the-art grass.
I remember as a kid playing on these fields. And if anyone had said at that time that it would be the host site, the training site for a World Cup, I would have laughed.
Beyond the 2026 tournament, it's a facility the Park Board hopes will foster talent for generations to come.
Our goal is to shine. Our goal is to make the city proud, our country proud, our province proud, make teams and visitors that are here want to come back over and over again, showcase our economic opportunity and innovation potential.
Now that the FIFA draw has happened, officials say they can begin refining traffic, safety, and staffing plans. Volunteers are in the process of being selected.
Although the training site here at Killarney Park will play host to the world's best for only a short period of time, I know this work will be part of a lasting community legacy.
BC Place is also seeing upgrades, including more elevators, new washrooms, and new team facilities. And pre-planned upgrades to the Peony Amphitheatre will be ready in time to be used as a fan event space, with a capacity of 10,000 people. Michelle Gomez, CBC News, Vancouver.
A municipality in Peace River says a highway linking 3 communities in northeast BC has become dangerous to drive. As Tom Summer shows us, the district of Hudson's Hope says 2 intersections of Highway 29 are especially concerning.
District of Hudson's Hope Mayor Travis Quibel says Highway 29 is a safety risk. He says there's concerns about 2 areas, winding roads at Bear Flat and the possibility of losing Halfway Hill to a washout. They're both located between his community and Fort St. John.
We're looking at a road that's moving faster and faster and faster as time goes on. And if that road were to fail, we lose essentially our arterial highway between Hudson's Hope and the rest of the Peace region.
Quibel says the Halfway Hill has been shifting and sinking for years.
The road base is moving. It's typically sliding down the hill. We're losing the edge of the road in a number of locations.
Halfway Hill is patched up with layers of gravel. District Councillor Tashana Winnicky says that kind of repair could lead to a washout.
They've just been kind of putting material on top to fill it, but we don't know how much material has been lost underneath it. And with this snowmelt and increasing rain intensity events, there could be a real chance of a washout.
Quibel says if the highway was to wash out, it could have major health care impacts on patients, since BC ambulance vehicles travel on Highway 29 to emergency rooms in Fort St. John or Chetwynd.
An ambulance ride for a member of my community that takes an hour now becomes 3 hours.
He's asking the province to prioritize these 2 key areas on Highway 29 as a safety measure for his community. The Ministry of Transportation says it's working with a geotechnical team on long-term solutions. It said in a statement work to improve drainage in the road surface was completed last fall. And there are plans to talk with the district about council's concerns. Tom Summer, CBC News, Hudson's Hope.
In Revelstoke, snow falling fast. Good news for skiers and boarders. Darius has your BC-wide weather forecast coming up. Travelers taking Air Transat might see their holiday plans hitting turbulence. Pilots for that airline could be on strike by Wednesday, and that could leave some travelers without a way home. Anise Dari explains.
Air Transat could face a strike soon. Passengers are already thinking about it.
I brought my book, my computer with me. If I'm going to stuck there, I can have my exam on my computer.
This is just one of the hiccups, so we'll deal with it.
We'll come back on the next Monday, and yeah, we hope can come back on time, safe.
As Monday began, no major cancellations, but the company is preparing. It's adding extra flights to bring Canadians home early, all in case there's no deal. About 750 pilots often fly thousands of people a day on Air Transat, mostly to international destinations. It's hard to say where negotiations are at right now. The company says it's offering a big wage increase. The union disagrees.
Overall, the 59% average does stand, and we stand by that. We believe that it is the offer that we have on the table. That's what we presented.
If we had 59% on the table from the company, we'd be taking it to our members. It would be irresponsible not to. So I'm not going to get into what's on the table.
This is just the latest example of tension over how much Canadian pilots are paid. Last year, Air Canada pilots won big wage increases after threatening to strike, and more pay for WestJet pilots after similar moves both last year and the year before. Plus, foreign airlines may be upping wage expectations.
There's a recognition that there's a shortage of pilots in Canada, so we've got to step up to the plate and pay them well.
The last contract and its wages were set more than 10 years ago.
But you've also got crews who are seeing aircraft that are full, and they're expecting the airline to be making money, and they are naturally going to want to see some of that success in their paycheck.
While both the union and the company say they are still negotiating, the clock is ticking. Pilots could be off the job by Wednesday morning. Anise Dari, CBC News, Calgary.
A key piece of federal Liberal legislation has hit a major snag. CBC News has learned the Justice Minister brokered a deal to pass the Combating Hate Act without the approval of the Prime Minister's office, making its future unclear. More now from Kate McKenna.
Canada's Justice Minister is in the hot seat.
Mr. Speaker, this particular bill, since inception, was designed to combat hate in this country.
Sean Fraser's anti-hate bill C9 is potentially in limbo because of a deal gone sideways. The bill seeks to crack down on hate, making it illegal to promote hatred against identifiable groups and illegal to intimidate people outside places of worship.
I look forward to collaborating with all parties in a minority parliament, and I will look forward very much to the recommendations from the Justice Committee as they consider potential amendments to the current bill.
The bill needs another party's support to pass. The Bloc Québécois says they made a deal with the Liberals for support. In exchange, the law would be amended to remove a religious exemption from hate speech laws. The Bloc has long sought to remove the religious exemption, saying religion could be used as a cover for promoting hate, such as homophobia and anti-Semitism.
When you have a deal with a minister, that minister represents the government, and you should normally be safe with it.
But sources say Fraser's office didn't get buy-in from the Prime Minister, putting any deal to pass the legislation on hold.
I think the Liberals have been hearing the millions of Canadians that they've alienated with this agreement to erode long-standing religious protections that will inevitably infringe on people's right to practice their faith.
Some faith communities fear removing the religious exemption could lead to some scripture essentially being criminalized.
If we were going down that particular route, then you're going to be prosecuting religious leaders in every mosque, in every church, in every synagogue.
The bill was on track to pass through committee by the holidays, a key step on the way to becoming law. But the House of Commons is set to adjourn until late January later this week, meaning the bill could be pushed to next year. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now to a CBC News exclusive. There is new evidence suggesting Ontario jails are heading towards a record year for overcrowding. And it's happening as politicians debate new tough-on-crime bail reforms that could send even more people behind bars. The CBC's Julie Ireton has gone through the data and has more.
This would be the female dorms.
This woman spent 4 months inside this Ontario jail, awaiting her trial. Charged and later convicted of drug possession. CBC is not naming her for her protection.
The conditions and the way that you're treated as an inmate, you're not actually human in there.
There's an increasing number of women being incarcerated. In the past 6 years, 38% more women have been sent to jail. The vast majority are waiting for trial.
It's certainly shocking and alarming to see the huge growth in the number of women that are being held on the front end.
CBC's data analysis found overcrowding has become the norm in Ontario jails. Last summer, 22 of the province's 24 operating jails had more prisoners than beds. Frequently, 3 or even 4 inmates share cells meant for 2. But tough on crime messages could lead to new laws and more people in jail.
These changes will keep violent, repeat offenders of these crimes off our streets.
In fact, some judges have allowed accused to walk free. Cases have been stayed, citing human rights violations because of unsafe conditions and frequent lockdowns.
If you're one of these tough on crime people that cares about the proper administration of punishment in this province, then you should be very concerned that there's people getting discounts on sentences because of inadequate conditions.
The Ontario government proposes its own bail reforms and more jails.
We will be very, very aggressive in opening up new jails because in the end of the day, that means that if a person gets arrested, I have a place for them.
This Ottawa jail has been continuously over capacity for the past 3 years. The Ontario government has plans to expand and build new facilities, but in this region, a new jail won't be completed until at least 2032. Julie Ireton, CBC News, Ottawa.
Flu numbers are rising across the country, and health officials are worried. Some hospitals are seeing a surge in severe cases among children, most of whom have not been vaccinated. And as Selena Alders explains, the worst may be yet to come.
Flu cases in Canada are climbing fast, and kids are being hit hard. At Ottawa's Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, or CHEO, 8 times more children tested positive for influenza in November compared to the same time last year. Twice as many pediatric patients needed to be hospitalized, and CHEO says most of the kids coming into its ER haven't had a flu shot.
We did see, I think, close to 300 patients coming through our emerge in one day, which is a significant increase.
The Montreal Children's Hospital ER was quiet until mid-November, but it's now seeing a surge in patients, many with flu-like symptoms.
5 to 7 days of fever, cough, malaise, pain in the joints, some headaches, some vomiting.
National data shows positive pediatric tests for influenza A have jumped significantly across the country since October.
My son's had it 3 times now.
Michelle McPhail and her son have been homesick with what she calls their worst case of flu ever.
We'll just let it run its course. I don't think we will get the flu shot.
We do ask our patients and families when they come to the emergency department whether or not they've received the flu vaccine.
Although this year's flu vaccine is not a perfect match with the emerging H3N2 influenza strain, health officials say it still helps.
We know that vaccines can provide some protection against the severity of disease, prevent deaths, prevent hospitalizations, and that's really important. So the message is the same: to get vaccinated.
With peak flu season still weeks ahead, healthcare professionals warn now is the time to take precautions to help ease some of the pressures on the healthcare system. Selena Alders, CBC News, Halifax.
As we head into the holidays, bright lights and cheery music and a lot of baking may not be enough to boost your mood. Expectations and stress can be sky high, especially during family gatherings, amongst other events. To walk us through some practical tips for dealing with holiday stress is Julia Somedy, a registered psychologist in Vancouver. Julia, thanks for being here. Why is this season so tough for some people?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan. It's tough for a lot of people, and people get triggered at the holidays for all kinds of reasons. For example, we have a lot of family dynamics that have been long-standing for decades, and they get really amplified when we get into small spaces with those people. It can feel also out of control. We can have people in our space or be in someone else's space. There can be pressure to spend money on gifts. We could be dealing with a loss for the first time. So there could be a death or a divorce or something along those lines. And this could be the first holiday without that individual. We can feel like our families also might have different ideas around our values or our life choices, and there can be a lot of unsolicited advice that happens around the holidays. And there also can be an expectation of a perfect holiday or a tradition or what this day might mean. And so all of those things, I think, make it really tough for people sometimes over the holidays.
And we layer on perhaps cost of living increases and money pressures. Amid all that, how do you suggest people navigate some of these family holiday triggers, as you called them?
Yeah, I think there are kind of 4 areas of strategies, or 4 kind of ideas behind all the strategies. Intentionality, open communication, authenticity, and compassion, both for yourself and other people. Because I think one of the main reasons why the holidays can feel so triggering is that things feel out of control for us, and that can increase our stress. So I think having some preparation about what are the areas that are generally problematic during the holidays, and thinking about how might you want to show up, how do you want to communicate with people, what kind of boundaries or setup do you want to have in place, kind of helps reduce that stress and makes it more likely that we'll have a holiday that's in line with what we're looking for. Because that's really the only place where you have agency is over your own behavior. Yeah. And so that can often make us feel a bit more in control.
And if I may, what if and when we fail at that, despite our best efforts, what's the way to perhaps rise after we fall down?
Yeah, I think this goes to that idea of self-compassion. So really kind of normalizing the reality that, again, these have been long-standing dynamics, and one year was probably not going to undo them all, and that everyone's just trying their best. It also means that success doesn't mean avoiding all conflict. Success is setting a boundary that you hadn't before, or success is removing yourself when you get triggered, or not saying something really cruel. I think that's all success. And that also, conflict can be healthy. That's often how these dynamics change. And so trying something, attempting something, showing up in a way, again, that's intentional, is really all that you can do. And reflecting that message back to yourself, I think, is a really important part of this.
Julia Somedy, a registered psychologist in Vancouver, we appreciate your time and your expertise. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
After fleeing a war and years away, some Syrians are returning home. We're going to take you to the Turkey-Syria border, where some refugees are on their way back. Stay with us.
We're sharing really important information with the public, and I feel like this is exactly what our job is, especially as the public broadcaster, especially in morning radio. That's incredibly important.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he plans to share a revised peace plan with U.S. officials. It comes as he meets with European allies to negotiate better terms for the American-led proposal, which favors Russia and includes Ukraine giving up territory. The CBC's Crystal Gumansing has more from outside the British Prime Minister's residence, where that meeting took place.
You read the peace plan, Mr. President? Hello, sir. Can this plan work for Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky?
Questions were shouted at all of the leaders when they arrived here at 10 Downing and again when they left. They didn't respond, but they did share some initial thoughts when they were inside before the closed-door meeting began.
I think unity between Europe and Ukraine, and also unity between Europe, Ukraine and the United States are something which we can't manage without Americans.
We stand with Ukraine. And it was to be a ceasefire, it needs to be a just and lasting ceasefire.
Now I think the main issue is a convergence between our common positions, Europeans and Ukrainians, and the US to finalize these peace negotiations.
I'm skeptical about some of the details which we are seeing in the documents coming from the US side, but we have to talk about that. That's why we are here. Thank you for your invitation.
Now, there we did hear from German Chancellor Friedrich Merz talking about some concerning documents. It's unclear if he's talking about that initial American peace plan that was leaked to the media several weeks ago, or if he's talking about U.S. President Donald Trump's national security strategy. That document is raising the ire of some European leaders. It says, in part, that it is far from obvious whether certain European countries will have economies and militaries strong enough to remain reliable allies. Now, the president of the European Council, Antonio Costa, is saying it's no longer clear that the U.S. and Europe share a vision for international order. The U.S. president has told NATO countries that they shouldn't rely on the U.S. as their sole defenders. President Zelensky was the last to leave here, but he did share some remarks on social media, posting his gratitude to the leaders of the UK, France, and Germany, saying that security is always a shared challenge and a shared effort. Crystal Gumansing, CBC News, London.
Syrians are marking 1 year since rebel forces toppled the brutal dictatorship of Bashar al-Assad. The country's new government is calling it the inaugural Liberation Day. And after 13 years of grinding war, it's being celebrated as a new era, with many of the hundreds of thousands of Syrians who fled the fighting now returning home to help rebuild their country. The CBC's Briar Stewart has more.
This is the Oncupinar border crossing between Turkey and Syria, and these trucks are getting ready to head back into Syria. They are loaded up with the belongings of families who have been living for years in Turkey and are now heading back home. Now, after the beginning of the war in Syria, more than 3 million refugees came to Turkey, first living in tents, then they settled in cities all across the country. And over the past year, since the fall of the Bashar al-Assad regime, Turkey says that more than 500,000 Syrians have returned back home. There are many other Syrians who would like to return home, but they say now is not the time because the communities aren't really livable. We obviously know that there was a lot of destruction during the war. It will take time for infrastructure to be rebuilt, for houses to be built. There are some areas still without electricity. Now, the issue of the Syrian refugees here does remain a political one in Turkey. Some people believe that the Syrians have made the economy even worse, raised the cost of rent. But at the same time, we did hear from Syrians that said they were very well treated here. They were able to settle into communities, to integrate, learn Turkish. The government says it's not putting pressure on anyone to leave, that the return program right now is voluntary, though they're certainly providing assistance, help with transportation, help with legal issues. If there are documents or paperwork that people are missing that they need to secure before making the trip. As I said, more than 500,000 have already returned to Syria, and many others are hoping to go, but they're just waiting to see when the right time is and when they'll be able to go back and live in their communities for good. Briar Stewart, CBC News, along the Anjapanar border crossing between Turkey and Syria.
For all sorts of predators, the mouth of Lynn Creek in North Vancouver can be a salmon smorgasbord, but maybe not for much longer. A major underwater rock reef is being created to give the fish a fighting chance. Troy Charles has details.
The Lynn Creek estuary, a haven for salmon lovers.
Everybody likes salmon. So you've got the seals, you've got the otters, you've got the minks, you've got the herons, you've got the cormorants.
Glenn Parker of the North Shore Streamkeepers says when salmon transition from saltwater to freshwater or vice versa, they become very lethargic and are easy prey.
Estuaries are really critical because they're a spot where the salmon can make that transition. It needs places for them to hide, places for them to rest.
Enter a 4,000-ton hiding place. To help preserve the salmon, the Streamkeepers, along with Neptune Terminals, a major potash exporter, are spearheading a project that will see a massive underwater reef built at the mouth of Lynn Creek. Neptune is fully funding the project as part of offsetting work, which mandates companies to restore marine environments around areas they've impacted.
We come through with a thin layer of angular rock, which creates lots of nooks and crannies for different critters and different complex habitat, and then we come through with a larger material and create like more pronounced reef habitat.
The rock comes from Sumas Mountain in Abbotsford and is being tugged down the Fraser River on 3 barges. Work is roughly halfway done on the 1,800 square meter reef.
It's pretty meticulous work, so it's not a production type job, and it's very slow and methodical.
Lynn Creek is used by all salmon species except for sockeye. The reef will also help any salmon coming down from the Indian Arm looking for a pit stop.
It's a big thing for Neptune. It's obviously tied to a project that we have at the terminal specifically, but I think the longevity of this reef, hopefully, and introducing this complex habitat for many years to come is a pretty neat thing to be a part of.
As a society, we continually to kind of degrade our environment, and when you can turn the tape backwards for a little bit, it's really rewarding.
The reef is expected to be complete by mid-December. Troy Charles, CBC News, Vancouver.
The weather update is brought to you by BC Cancer Foundation. Give today to bring more progress and possibilities to patients and their families. Your donation changes everything.
Darius Madavi is joining us now with the BC-wide weather forecast. Touch damp out there today.
I'd say so. Some pretty sustained rainfall here on the south coast, including for the local mountains here in Metro Vancouver, because our freezing levels do remain pretty high, unfortunately. Now, we are continuing to see some of that rainfall come in, but we do get a bit of a reprieve tonight into tomorrow before that rain starts to pick up again tomorrow evening. I also wanted to highlight a lot of that rain is going south of us, with Washington and Oregon expected to get the brunt of this atmospheric river event. If we zoom out, you can see that long stream of moisture feeding into the province and down south of us. Now, it is dipping down. It is expected to come back up to us on Wednesday, so expect some heavy rainfall then. Let's take a look at what that's going to look like. Rainfall for the coast, I should say. Snow at those higher elevations and breaking into the interior. So here we are right now. Again, some heavier rainfall coming to parts of the Fraser Valley. That will continue to be a trend in the next wave as well. So heavy, high accumulations expected there, just east of Metro Vancouver. And then we see a fair amount of snowfall coming in. Here's that next wave of snow and rain coming in. Again, high accumulations for the west coast of the island. The South Island, which is usually pretty sheltered from events like this, also expecting to see some high accumulations, and that snow breaking into the interior. So potential for more warnings to be issued probably on Wednesday as we see more of that come in. Now, like I said, high accumulations for parts of the island. I actually want to zoom in here because there's our first wave and there's our second one coming in. You'll notice that's at about 30 millimeters coming today to Victoria, which seems about right. That seems like what we've seen. But reaching 80 millimeters by the end of the day Wednesday. That means 50 millimeters coming throughout the day on Wednesday. That does feel a little bit high, but it is pretty consistent between models, and it seems like it could line up with what we're expecting to see in terms of how that rain is coming in. Also very high accumulations, again, for the Fraser Valley, but this does include the rain that we've already gotten today. So that is something to note. In terms of snowfall, again, coming in along the mountains, some of it coming into the parts of the interior as well. High accumulations for parts, relatively high for parts of the northeast, including up around Fort St. John and Dawson Creek, but not much, again, here for the local mountains or much of Vancouver Island's mountains. Conditions across the province tomorrow, a little bit of sunshine does come in for most areas, but that rain is likely to start again on the coast later in the day. Tomorrow, some sunshine to kick off the day, Dan, here in Metro Vancouver. Some showers are possible later in the day, and then that rain starts overnight and holds through Wednesday.
Okay. Thanks, Darius.
Thank you.
Up next, we're going to take you into the largest and greatest Christmas markets around. The entire center of Zagreb transformed. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox. December 5th kicked off CBC's Make the Season Kind, supporting food banks in British Columbia. Thank you to all who have already donated generously and made a difference. The charity drive continues until December 31st. To find out more, head to cbc.ca/kindbc. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter and keep connected with us.
There are Christmas markets, and there are award-winning Christmas markets. This one in Croatia's capital has been ranked the best in Europe 3 times in the past. The sprawling winter attraction covers much of Zagreb's city center, turning it into a glittering wonderland.
Selfie time. Visitors can wander around lighted walkways and pop into holiday-themed market stalls. You can stop to fuel up on Croatian sausages, cabbage rolls, sounds good, and sip rakia before catching a live performance. The iconic ice rink also draws in thousands to lace up for a spin. But not after too much rakia. Keep that in mind.
Selfie time was not in the script.
Sure wasn't.
Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, YouTube, and our website, cbc.ca/BC.
And we'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. See you then.